I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
Next up in our installment of Ben and Joe review a movie that's been out for quite some time.
Yeah, well, it's all right. It's in the past year. It's in the past movie year. And I feel like this is the time of year where a lot of people, maybe it's just me, a lot of people, being myself, catch up on movies from the year. I mean, they definitely do for Oscar noms. Now, I don't think Beau Is Afraid has been nominated for any Oscars, has it?
Not that I know of now.
Nothing big, none of the big categories.
No.
Stuff sneaks in for other things I don't really care about.
Yeah.
This hurts, Joe. This sucks because Joaquin Phoenix, I'm not just like, he likely is my favorite actor. If it was like gun to your head, you had to pick one.
Yeah.
He's my favorite actor. Ari Aster, one of my favorite directors. I know he doesn't have as much of a catalog yet, but he's part of that like highbrow horror, which I love. I also love lowbrow horror. I love horror in general, but and it has actresses. I love Patti LuPone. I'm a huge Les Miserables fan, and she famously played Fantine and Les Miserables on the stage. And I forget his name. His last name's Henderson. He has like a 3 name. He's the therapist in it. He's a great actor. He's in Fences. I like a lot. I think her name's Amy Ryan, who's from The Office. And Nathan Lane, of course. This movie has great actors, a great director, and is a steaming piece of shit. Like, this movie sucks. I hated this movie. I'm trying to swear less, but the last line of my review is I fucking hated this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. I was angry. I believe in the rule from, I didn't make this up, so I want to take credit for it. But everyone gets one TV in their life that they're allowed to smash. Like, you get one. Usually that's reserved for sports. That's from Part of My Take sports podcast. So whenever you see a fan of a football team or base or whatever it is smash a TV, it's like, hey, everybody gets one. That's their one. They get one. So I was saving that for like a Mets game or something, Mets World Series game, maybe a Saints game.
Yeah.
I wanted to use it on this movie.
Really?
I wanted to smash my TV. I hated this movie. It is 3 hours long. It doesn't, I mean, it's so in your, like, I put Kafka-esque in question, question mark in my notes while I'm making, it's like, it ends, I'm spoiling this movie. It ends with a goddamn trial on nothing. Like, that's not even Kafka-esque. That's derivative of the trial, the novel by Kafka, where the term comes from. Where it's like you're being persecuted for something you don't understand. That is so on the nose that it's like, I mean, I expect better.
Yeah.
It starts out really cool. He's living in like urban hellscape, which is basically just like New York City or LA. But it's supposed to be a made up hellscape. I mean, it's probably not that far off from real life, which is sad. But it's supposed to be exaggerated, people just getting stabbed on the street and carnage and chaos, and the cops, like, you go to ask the cop for help and he's like, don't make me do it. He's like, shoots at you. Like, everything is in disarray. But the thing about this movie is there's never that moment where it's like, oh, I had another note in my notes. I was like, oh, is it all in his head? Like, there's never that totem or that that moment where it's like, okay, there's any like levity or anything. It is merely just, if I heard him say what one more time, like a wounded animal, he's just like, what? Like, I was gonna lose my goddamn mind, because there's nothing, I compared this to torture porn. Like, there's nothing I'd like less in a movie than someone who's just completely helpless. Like, we can make our protagonist struggle, and they should, and even fail, and even die, and all of those things. But there was never any sort of like, he has some goal to achieve. He can make some decision that would change his path. It was just torturing this man for 3 hours straight. And physically torturing him mentally. Like, this obviously is a movie. I mean, if you thought The Fabelmans was about mommy issues, I mean, that's what this movie is. This movie's about mommy issues. So it has a giant penis monster, which I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like after all of that, is a giant penis monster.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe, do you have a different take on this?
Yeah, I mostly enjoyed it.
Well, that's wrong. So I'm going to keep going.
Well, this is coming from a guy who thinks that a neon pink movie about a doll and a patriarchy was good. So I don't know exactly.
Oh, Barbie? Yeah, I thought Barbie was good. No, but hold on. To defend Barbie, first of all, I liked it a lot. I didn't like love it. I don't think it should win any Oscars really, except for like Ryan Gosling was legitimately funny. He had an actual arc and like yeah, I thought Barbie, like I thought it looked cool. Yeah, it was super cringe, some of it. Don't get me wrong. Like politically, it was super cringe.
Yeah.
I actually think it some of the lessons it was trying to teach it did the opposite. There have been arguments that Barbie's a very conservative movie, but that aside, yes, I like Barbie because it had redeeming qualities, like Ryan Gosling's performance, which was actually great and had good comedy, and it was absurd. But like what qualities did you like about Beau Is Afraid?
Well, for starters, I think to me it was very David Lynchian in some ways, where it pays no attention to sort of classical storytelling techniques. So for me, it was like, I'm just letting this movie wash over me. I'm not trying to understand it or pick it apart, or kind of like understand, like, what's the character's arc. Somebody said in a review, and maybe this would have made me appreciate it more, but somebody said that's a very so Ari Aster is Jewish. Somebody says it's a very like Jewish guilt movie.
Yeah, of course. Like it's I believe. I mean, I'm going to make an assumption here. His last name is Wasserman in it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they ever light a menorah or anything, but let's assume that he's Jewish in it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the whole like, what is it? Not that it's a Jewish thing in America, but circumcision. That's like a much bigger part of Jewish culture. Where in America, a lot of people are circumcised. In Europe, it actually is a much bigger issue. It's like there's this weird schism between like Jews and Muslims on the same side, and that the Europeans are the Christian, not secular Europeans are not for. But anyway, maybe that's a penis thing to do with it. I've read it's like about like emasculation and castration. Is that
maybe I don't know if I know very little about Jewish culture. I don't know if there's something about like the domineering Jewish mother, like the smothering Jewish mother.
Yeah, 100%. I'm from a very Jewish area. I think there's also a lot of parallels between them and like Italian mothers.
Right.
You can definitely see that. I don't have an Italian mother. She said you're lucky that I'm not Italian. But there's a lot of overlap there between like Jewish mothers and Italian mothers. And I think also like Latina mothers in a way. Where it's very much the oldest boy, but I don't get that. Like the stereotypes are the oldest boys can get away with whatever. They're very nurtured, and it's the women who are treated like shit. I mean, like,
speak from experience.
Like exactly. Like I mean, you have a Latina mother. I mean, those are the stereotypes, and I have dealt with that in some other ways where it's like the boys can be total fuck ups, and they're the princes, especially the oldest boy, where the girls are treated like crap. But anyway, so the Jewish side of it is very similar.
Yeah. So I mostly liked it because it was something where I could just like and I don't know if I even watched some interviews with Ari Aster, and he's been very reluctant, and I think rightfully so, to explain the movie to what it's about. And so I actually like that. We're just sort of like, okay, it's just a bunch of like I think maybe this Ari Aster dealing with shit like this. Maybe this is like a very personal film.
Yeah, but like I don't like that. I like him. No, let me take a step back. I like when the director doesn't just tell you, no, this is how you should take this. Like I like being able to. That's I think part of art is like how do you interpret this? That I like. I don't like when a director just throws his like subconscious at the screen and says like, here I've made, because like you can't. And I feel like it's very much like a third movie thing to do, especially like when your first two movies are hits. Hereditary and then Midsummer. And then it's like, well, I've done these much more like narrative, super successful, somewhat edgy, like definitely edgy, but also safe in terms of storytelling movies. Now I'm just gonna like do this crazy thing that's avant-garde and whatever. Like I don't like that unless it's done well. I don't think this is done well.
Right. I some of my problems with it. One, I thought the ending just is very abrupt. It just kind of left me going, okay. So I agree with, and I'm not too familiar with Kafka, so maybe for me, but even that, I still didn't care much for that ending. I thought
What? So the ending isn't like the trial.
the trial part, yeah. I
That
just
is
really,
so I do know Kafka, and I'm telling you, it's not even like derivative isn't even the right word. It's like basically a knockoff
yeah.
because it's like the trial is a Kafka novel, and Kafka-esque, the term means like you constantly feel prosecuted and persecuted, and like this sense of guilt, even guilt and shame. I know those are different things, but even if you haven't done anything wrong, I mean, that's what the metamorphosis is about. Where at the end of metamorphosis, he turns into this bug, and at the end, he just hears his family talking about how terrible he is, even though he hasn't done anything, that he wants to just die.
Yeah.
And in the trial, he's being prosecuted for a crime. Like they never tell him his crime, but he just eventually gives in and just admits to guilt.
Yeah.
And that's what happens here in Beau Is Afraid. We don't actually know why Bill, like, do we know why Beau was such a shitty son?
Right.
Why like she hated him? Like, I mean, they mess with him. First of all, like he lives in squalor and his mom is rich.
Yeah.
You would think, and that surprised me. Like he's constantly like things are constantly out of his control, and maybe that's one of my biggest issues with this is the lack of control that he has. And we're just supposed to watch him suffer without having any without it's okay to watch characters suffer. Sometimes you root. I mean, that's kind of the fun of like a John Wick movie, for instance, where death, you're watching people get shot in the head over and over, but it's like, oh yeah, but they're bad guys. Like they're suffering, but they're bad guys. Like, Beau, we don't know what he's done wrong.
Right. So something that I think kind of I kept with me when I walked into the theater watching for the first time was Ari Aster said that he described it as a nightmare comedy. So I was like, right off the bat, I was like, okay, this is not going to be because I mean, like I agree with you, like to an extent. It's like, yeah, like he doesn't like he just suffers constantly. There's no like arc. There's no like, and there's no reason to it. But at the same time, it's like, to me, like that's still kind of like an element of classical storytelling to some extent that this film seems purposefully avoiding. So to me, it's like, okay, I like it's hard for me to judge it where it's like, yeah, he's not even trying to be, traditional in any form. So I'm like, yeah, all right, it's just crazy shit. And also, like, I thought he succeeded for the most part, and like it was very nightmarish of like all this shit's happening beyond your control.
Yeah, it's definitely nightmarish.
Yeah,
but I mean, so there are, whether it's a novel or whether it's a movie or a show. You ever heard? They actually say it perfectly in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Dennis goes like, someone starts to tell a dream. He's like, look, unless I'm in it or someone's having sex, I don't care. Like I don't want to hear about your dreams. The same. So movies and novels, dream sequences, and I've written them. And in my first novel, dream sequences come up, and I hope I did them well. But I think it's a gamble. Dream sequences and like drug-induced sequences, tripping or drunkenness. Like sometimes it is done so poorly, and it's just annoying, and it's tropey, and sometimes it's really interesting and really and very informative or entertaining, even. But it's a gamble. Yeah. So if you're going to make it a 3-hour movie on a nightmare. Like, I think like you're gambling, and I don't think this was well done because I mean, I don't know, like, are you trying to punish your audience? Like, what did we do? Like, I don't get it because I don't like the idea that no matter what Beau does, is wrong.
Right.
No matter what he does.
Yeah.
Usually he's trying to do the right thing. Like he tries to stop that girl from drinking paint, and she does, and she dies. He tries. He
gets blamed for it. Yeah,
he gets blamed for it, and then he has this psycho, the war veteran chasing after him. It was funny that I did like that the war, like we went to war with Venezuela, and we had all these like, so like we had soldiers in Venezuela, and he was a veteran of that war.
Yeah,
just kind of maybe foretelling. We'll see. I doubt we'll ever invade Venezuela, but who knows? But. That's just what I don't like about it. It's like, okay, how's Beau going to get screwed next? And it's a nightmare. I mean, you said it yourself. Apparently, RS said nightmare comedy. I don't think it was funny.
I thought it was pretty hilarious. I laughed quite a
You
bit.
thought you did? I did not
Yeah.
find it funny. I thought the beginning of the movie was actually really good, and I liked where it's going. I love the naked guy just going "fuck you, fuck you, fuck you."
Yeah,
fuck you."
yeah.
Like, again,
I remember that the
quote,
news.
Twitter.
There's that news report at the beginning where he's watching it, and he goes, "There are reports of a nude man running around the city, stabbing people in the guts."
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I think the movie turned for me after he gets hit by the truck.
Yeah.
And he goes to Nathan Lane and I think her name's Amy Ryan's house. I liked that they kind of, because that atmosphere was getting so chaotic.
Yeah.
With all the like people chasing him and the homeless people breaking his apartment. And I'm like, okay, that was kind of a fun setup, but now like let's get on path here. Let's like create an adventure or something.
Yeah.
And it just kind of that unraveled into him again on the run again. I don't really like there was like the play within the movie, but then becomes
That was too
real.
long. I didn't care for that.
Yeah, and I'm like, what's the I think even people with positive reviews were like, there's this totally tangential play where it's like his whole life, but it's like not his life.
Yeah, it's like
He
a
has
different version
children,
of his life.
and then it's like, why does Parker Posey die after she fucks him?
Yeah, no.
Like, look, okay, that's cool. Like, fine, someone died. Like, for instance, in American Horror Story season 3, one of my favorite seasons of any show.
Yeah,
it's the Coven one in New Orleans. One of the girls, the guys die when they have sex with her, and it's because she's a witch and she has some power, or like that's somewhat explained. So it's not like it's like, okay, but why does she die?
Right.
When you could like just to punish him more.
Yeah.
Just for guilt. Just like this is the love of his life. The girl he's committed is like longing for. I think like doesn't he like save himself for her? Like, he's never had sex, right?
Yeah,
like that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then she dies. I don't like why.
Again, I thought that was funny. I thought it was just like this brutally dark irony just throughout. I thought it was actually pretty funny. Yeah, I thought that play scene was way too fucking long. It was cool for a little bit. For the first couple of minutes, I was all right. This is a weird little sequence. All right, and then it felt like it went on for like 40 minutes. It was like a whole
They
like
might have if they went from him on the run, let's say, to his mom's house.
Yeah.
And threw some action in there, right? Something like that. I might have liked this movie.
Right.
You're right. That middle part was so bad. And it was so like again, this movie was literally 3 hours and 1 minute, I believe.
Yeah.
Why? Why is this movie 3 hours long?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I'm not I don't like I mean maybe like okay, so what are some other David Lynch movies or shows where they're similar to this? Like I've seen some of
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. I do want to rewatch Twin Peaks actually. I think I started a while ago and I don't watch a few episodes, but I loved what I was seeing. Like I just kind of fell off. I think I was in law school. Like what are some other David Lynch movies that this would be akin to?
Eraserhead, Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, that's on my list also.
Wild at Heart.
Did he do Blue Velvet?
He did Blue Velvet, yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, I feel like that's one of his more like straightforward, conventional type movies. It's still pretty weird.
Yeah.
But it's still like, okay, it's got a beginning, middle, and end. It's got a guy who's got like a goal.
I like don't get me wrong, I like weird. I even like avant-garde. I like those something where it's like your actions matter. Like there's conflict. The conflict can't just be you're screwed no matter what. Yeah. Like, I mean, so I guess like even slashers where it's like you make the slightest mistake. Oh, you had sex and you're 17. Okay, you're dead now. Yeah. Like at least there's somewhat, even if it's completely illogical and evil, there's like some really like the final girl, like she doesn't have sex or they make the right decisions. They don't split up. They don't go to the attic or whatever it is. Like there's something there. Here's like no matter what he does, he's tortured.
Yeah. I know, and I thought it was funny. I was laughing throughout most of it.
Okay. I just didn't find it funny.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it. Maybe I found it funny. But I think besides the beginning with some of the just absurdities of how horrific his neighborhood was, which was pretty funny.
I thought that part was probably honestly like the strongest part of the movie because
beginning?
like that beginning
Yeah.
sequence before he gets hit by the car. It's like
Yeah,
there's like the group of like homeless people, and it's like the same like 5 or 6 of them, and there's one dude who's like dancing, like some gay guy who's just like dancing, and then, like,
but then he's got to get stabbed to death.
Yeah, but I like how like no matter like he opens the window, like that same group of people is just still there doing their
The one
same
guy
thing.
always chases him to his apartment. Like,
Yeah.
that was funny. Or when like there's a guy, I think it was a guy who's going to jump off a building, and they're all like cheering him on, right? Like yeah, I'm like, oh, like you're right. Like I liked the beginning of that, but again, that's like 30 minutes of a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
And
did you catch this? I thought, and it seemed pretty intentional. It's that there were 2 references to 2 other Ari Aster movies. Did you notice any similarities at all?
Doesn't he only have 2 other movies?
Yeah. Well, 2 other feature-length films, but
2 other feature. Are these? So this is a Midsummer and a Hereditary.
Yeah.
No,
I thought the scene where he was walking up the attic, the penis monster reveal, seemed like just the way it was lit and the way it was shot was so similar to the scene. And I don't know, like maybe this is, and maybe this is him being even more self-indulgent, because I will admit it was a very self-indulgent movie. Maybe this is him sort of like, hey, this is me referencing my own work. But like the scene where he's going up the attic, and then but instead of seeing like a headless corpse and this whole like satanic thing, he sees a penis monster. There's that, and then the other scene during the trial where somebody, I think it was like his lawyer gets thrown off of like the cliff, but off the ledge, and he lands on the rock, and then his face smashes.
Like Midsummer,
yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch those, but yeah, you're probably. I actually thought. I mean, I also love that actor who plays her lawyer. I forget his name. He's really good. He's I don't know. He's like a character actor in a lot of stuff, but he usually plays kind of a stereotypical Jewish guy. Like he's in an episode of documentary now about Co-op. It's like a musical, which is coincidentally based on the show my fiance is in now about the original run in the 80s, which was like a total flop. Got like, now this run is extremely successful, but that run, it famously flopped. It's like known as Sondheim's biggest flop ever in like the early 80s. Anyway, he plays a doorman in it, and he's funny, and he plays like other character actors, but he's playing like the lawyer. He's good. Again, like the performances, like Joaquin Phoenix was good. Yeah. It's not like he was bad. He's Joaquin Phoenix. He gives it's just, I couldn't, like, again, if he's just going to ask one more time, like I felt so bad for him, and I'm all for, I mean, if you want to make a movie about like life is suffering, I'm all for that. That's fine. But I mean, my God, give us something here. Like get like the movie Silence or something is, I think, one of the best examples of this. I know I love that movie. It's a Scorsese movie. I mean, there's like some hope in it, some redemption. Like there's nothing in this movie. And I'm sorry, like I don't need to see your like Jewish mothers, like the trauma you have from having a Jewish mother, and you talking to your, I mean, now that you say that, I don't think it's a coincidence that the therapist in the movie like commits the worst crime a therapist can make, which is like recording your sessions and showing them to the people that you're like trying to work out in therapy. I'm sure that, Ari Aster has been through plenty of therapists. I don't need that shit turned into a 3-hour movie. That's for you to work out on your therapist's couch, not for like, I mean, not that I paid any money for this. I rented it, but at the library. But like that's not something that people should have to pay like $15 to go see in a theater.
Well, I think I got too much of my money's worth. Like,
I'm gonna go see it again.
Well, and there were a lot of brilliant touches. I don't think it all came together as well as I liked, but there were a lot of great, like, sort of like pretty bold, daring cinematic strokes. So I mean, like the movie opens with a birthing sequence from like the POV of a baby. I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen the movie before.
Yes, cool. That's cool. Again, this is a big, like this is now a very successful director with, I'm sure, a big budget. He can afford people like yes, of course that stuff, but I give a lot more, I guess my focus tends to be more on things like storytelling and plot. And yes, I care about like directing, obviously, and I care about lighting and color palettes and all that stuff. But like the more money you have, like it's easier to do. Yeah, like it is.
It wasn't just. I'm not talking so much like the budget. I'm just saying like the idea of like I've just never seen a baby's POV being born, like just the idea of like,
You've
holy
never
shit,
seen
like
that? I feel like that's been done before.
no, from the baby's perspective,
Yeah.
being born.
Yeah, like seeing the light. I feel like that's been done before, but maybe not. I don't know. It was
Maybe I
cool.
saw it on a big screen, but I thought
Like even the side quest he went on, whatever, that like surreal within a surreal play thing, like that looked cool.
it was a great
looked
style, but
great. Yeah, but it's like okay, like I don't know. I like
Yeah.
I care more about, well, how does this play into this character's story? What's the adventure here? What's the conflict? Like that's the stuff I tend to care more about. Of course, I also care about like bad acting's the worst. Bad writing is terrible. But this is Ari Aster. This is Joaquin Phoenix and Patty LuPone. Like I expect it. That stuff. Like Nathan Lane, fantastic actor. I saw another movie that I'm reviewing next that I fucking hated. Sorry, trying to curse, that Nathan Lane is in. But I still think he's a fantastic actor. There's a handful of actors that have earned my, like, again, not that they give a shit, but like I've earned my, like, I will watch whatever they're in. Like I'll watch any Nathan Lane movie. I'll watch any Joaquin Phoenix, Kathy Bates, Nick Cage. Like I just watch a stinker of a movie with Nick Cage. I'm gonna watch the next Nick Cage movie. Like it's that's just what I'm gonna do because they've earned it. And I love these actors. Even in bad movies, they can be good and they can bring something to the table. But I don't know, man. This really put me off. What's his next movie? Is something Metropolis? Is he redoing Metropolis?
I don't think so. Not that I know of. Ari Aster?
Yeah. Am I wrong about that?
You could be thinking of Robert Eggers, who's remaking Nosferatu.
No, it's not that. Eddington? What the hell is Eddington? Who is doing Metropolis? Hold on, real quick. Metropolis remake. Did I just make this up? Am I just willing this into existence? Remake, scrapped. Oh no! Scrap before shoot. Oh, this was last year. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to look into all this. I just swore this was Ari Aster. All right, never mind. This is bad. This is bad radio. I could have swore this was happening. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking something totally different. Anyway, all right. Well, that's enough. I'm right. You're wrong about this. Let's move on.
Well, you like Barbie, so
I did like Barbie. I think Barbie is good. It's funny. It's also super cringe. I think that's a little something for everyone.
The movie's so bad. I haven't even seen it, and I know it's bad.
So
that's how bad it is.
If you haven't seen it, how?
That's how bad it is, though. It's like oh, it's just like I just woke up like holy shit, Barbie's bad.
No, it's the discourse that you don't like, which is actually giving us a lot to talk about, which is fun, and I like that about movies. Like I think that's fun. Like,
I don't like
when people talk about movies.
Pink movies. I like brown movies.
I like BIPOC movies.
Exactly.
All right.
So enough of Ben's wrong opinions. Shane Gillis.
That's a new segment.
Ben's wrong opinions. Yeah.
All right.
I think I make a big banner, but I don't want to. I'm too tired.
All right,
okay,
Shane Gillis.
I think we're both in agreement that we love him.
Oh, he's the best. He's so funny.
I think he's the worst. No, I love Shane Gillis. He's great.
He's so good. Cancel culture is dead.
Yeah.
We did it. We did it, Joe. Kamala Harris, verbal meme Kamala Harris. We did it, Joe. Shane Gillis, who was famously fired before starting at SNL for doing I guess racist. I guess you would call him racist. I don't know. Say racial Chinese impersonations.
From what I understand, because the clip that went viral was him and his podcast partner doing like these really over the top Asian impressions and but here's the thing. From what I understand, I haven't seen the full like the actual context of it. They were making fun of like racist white people. Like they were making fun of people who were doing So that's why it was so exaggerated. So that's the full context. They were just like, hey, this is rip on Asians. It was like, let's make fun of.
Well, you have to remember though that happened at a time when context didn't matter.
I know, yeah.
It didn't matter, and that time sucked, and that's how we met. When this was like 2020, 2021.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah,
but this is a hell of a comeback, though.
I mean, did we bury the lead? He's he's hosting SNL, which is hilarious. Which he said. So put have the police ready. He said if he ever hosts SNL, he'll kill himself during the monologue. So we'll see if he pulls the trigger, so to speak.
There was this is from an article. This is from The Spectator, which does some good work. So the article is Shane Gillis and the Year Cancel Culture Dies. So towards the end here, it's a funny little reference. There is just one wrinkle. In summarizing his status as Who's Back of the Week, Barstool Sports' Dan Katz noted that Gillis does have to navigate around the uncomfortable fact of promising in 2019 that if he ever got to host the show, he'd pull a Bud Dwyer in his monologue.
Yep.
Bud Dwyer, for those of you who don't know, I think we've talked about him. We've mentioned him before.
Have we? Oh, okay.
He was a politician from was it Pennsylvania or something?
Oh, that was Texas, but it might have been.
No, it was somewhere a little more north. I think more Midwest type area. Gotcha. But anyway, he was a politician in the early 80s who got caught in, I think, a bribery scandal or some kind of scandal. And he went on live television and he got like a press conference ready and he shot himself in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And the reason he did that,
87. Oh, you're right. Pennsylvania. He was a House rep.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
And the reason he did that was because if he'd have been removed from office, then his family would not have gotten the benefits or like pension or whatever. So that's why if he'd have died while still in office, then his family would have gotten those benefits or whatever.
Gotcha. Wait, if he died, you mean if he was removed from office?
If he was removed from office, then his family would not have gotten those benefits.
Right.
So that's why he shot himself while still technically in office, so that way his family benefited from his
family man.
But here's the thing: apparently, the guy who like he got the investigation going said that he lied, like years or decades later.
Wait, so he lied about
accusing him, Bud Dwyer, of whatever the thing was.
Did Bud Dwyer do anything wrong?
Apparently, or at least it was not as bad as he was accused of, but I guess it looked so bad that suicide seemed a better way out.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I don't know all the full details. I mean, that's just kind of like, but anyway, that's the thing that the refer to.
You win some, you lose some.
Exactly. Yeah. I hope Shane Gillis does not follow through on that.
No, of course.
He's a jokey boy. He's a jokey boy.
He's very funny. I listen to Gillian Keeves, his podcast, and I'm actually finishing a Rogan episode with Keeves, who's his co-host. They're both very funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shane would you say he became famous because of his Trump impression? Or
that was definitely a huge part of it. But I mean, that
the thing about him though, yes, I think while there were many, many, many Trump impressions for a while, his is one, phenomenal, and two, like he likes Trump. Yeah. So it's not making fun of Trump. It's more like just kind of talking about how absurd Trump is and how like funny he can be. Because Trump is like very funny. Even like people who don't like him are like, yeah, he's very funny and charismatic.
And that's the thing, because he's not like a Trump supporter as far as like he doesn't care about he doesn't say anything about his policy. It's just him as a person. He's like he's a crazy guy. He's a fun dude. So.
I think I would bet my life savings that Shane's voting for Trump. Now
I don't know.
I 100% think so.
Really? What makes you think that? I mean, has he said anything about it?
Yeah, he's like very. I think Shane's like very conservative, like in a lot of ways. I listen to his podcast. I'm not saying I don't think he's like a MAGA guy, like he died in the wall that, but like he definitely hates Biden. He has a lot of conservative viewpoints, and unless he goes RFK, which he might, I would definitely think that he's voting for Trump. Maybe
it was just right after the SNL thing. He went on Andrew Yang, and he didn't go on like a full on like anti-Trump rant or anything, but he did not speak highly of him as a president. But again, I don't know. But if anything, I like the ambiguity. Like I like where it's like, I think I mentioned before where it's like he's got like a red state delivery, but he knows how to cater to a wider audience. It's not just
because he's from like southeast-ish Pennsylvania, but not like immediate Philly suburbs, like more Harrisburg area, Mechanicsburg. Yeah. And he's definitely from like the red parts of Pennsylvania, but he's lived a lot in Philly and New York. And he kind of used it like what he loves saying, he brings up Trump and people boom. He's like, all your dads voted for Trump. And then they laugh, like the Brooklyn audiences and stuff like that. And I don't like, you're saying, okay, went on Andrew Yang, like, okay, but who's your audience there? Like Andrew Yang doesn't like Trump. I think it's more telling when he's on Rogan or when he's on his own podcast and just shooting the shit. I would be very surprised if he didn't. Now, he might never admit to it, but you can just kind of tell. I'd be very surprised if he didn't vote for Trump. Again, you don't have to, like, it's not always like who you like. It's well, he really hates Biden. Like really hates him. As do I, but I will not be voting for Trump because I'm voting for RFK. I actually, you know what? I take back my life savings thing because I could definitely see him voting for RFK. I know Keeves loves RFK. So
either way, I'm glad that he and it's cool because he knows how to appeal to a wide audience without like being bland. Like he still has such a like unique delivery and style. He knows how to kind of push the boundaries without like going over the top and being just like a straight up like right wing comedian. Like he's
definitely any just overtly political comedian is not funny. We saw a ton of the liberal anti-Trump side of that. Basically since Trump's been around, like kind of peaking in 2018, 2019. Like, I mean, turn on any late night TV. It's just so cringe and bland. But like right wing, like I followed some kind of right wing comedians too. And while I think there are good, like Lou Perez, I think is a good one. I don't know if he would say he's right wing, but kind of like making fun of the absurdities and the craziness of progressives, of the crits. I think that's easy and funny. Owning the libs is always funny to me. But like there were some that I follow and it's like, this is just mean. Like, this isn't comedy. This is just like, I don't like comedy that's just like point and laugh at the freaks. Whether I do think they're freaks or not, like, that's not comedy. I think Milo would do that sometimes. And that's it's just like, look at this trans, like this non-binary, BIPOC, whatever. It's like, okay, but that's not funny. Like make a joke out of it. Like there are ways to be funny with it, and so I don't like that either.
Adam Carolla is kind of like that, and it's funny because like I mean, he's a talented comedian, but there was one bit, and this is where he had a show for a bit on the Daily Wire, but there was one sketch or one set that he was doing where he was just talking about how he was ripping on woke people, but he kept calling him the no woke joke man or the can't take a joke woke guy, but he just kept saying it. It's like, okay, I get it, you don't like woke people, like it's so like over the top. So now you can't say this, and now you can't say that because Mr. No Woke Joke Guy. It's like, okay, I get it. Like,
that's fair because that's because he's a boomer, and I saw I always forget his goddamn name, but a comedian in AC, and he was pretty funny, and I like he was in. Do you ever watch the Louis show? Just called Louis
with Louis C.K.
Yeah, not Lucky Louis, just Louis.
I watched a little bit of that.
He's the guy who in that episode he's like opening for Louis and he's like really crass. He lights his farts on fire and like goes to take an upper decker, cracks his heart open and dies. Do you remember that episode?
I don't remember that one. No.
Oh, so it's that comedian and he's funny. Like he has a good delivery. He kind of has like a monotone, but then he wrote a book with his son. It's just like him, and this is his words. He's like, oh, it's just me and my son complaining about, like, this was, I think, before woke was a term or any of that. This was like 2018, 2019. So like it wasn't really in the zeitgeist yet, but or as much, was like just kind of complaining about, I guess, progressive people. It's like, I don't, just as much as I don't want to like watch Ari Aster's therapy notes in 3 hours in a movie, like I don't want to hear about you bitching about like Gen Z people. Or millennials. That was like still when it was like rip on millennials for everything. Like that's not funny. I don't know. Like you can make jokes out of that, but like, I'm not gonna buy your book. It's just ripping on it. And overall, he's like a good comedian. But anyway, and then some right wingers kind of do that. It's like, oh, I see you guys don't like this thing. I'm going to just complain about it. And that's the same as like SNL clapter. Like that's not original. That's just you're saying the thing I like, and I'm not paying my money. I'm not spending my time watching your Netflix special if that's all you're going to give. Like even Dave Chappelle's kind of gone to this territory where it's like just preaching instead of jokes, instead of bits. Like jokes aren't even the right term, instead of bits. And and I think he get admitted to that a little bit. Like it became a little too much like complaining about stuff. And I think some of that, and I'll wrap this up. The last part about it is like, I think when some people get too famous, they become too successful. It's like, well, all those issues that they had that made them strive at the open mics and made like funny interactions with people. It's like, well, you don't have those when you're living in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Like when you're living in Soho and you get private, like you're not interacting with people. Everyone thinks you're amazing. Like you don't have those same situations. I think this happens with rappers sometimes. Like you're not in the ghetto anymore. Like you're not shooting up the place. You're not like, what do you rap about? Like that's what was interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, Shane is very good. Shane,
he's very good. He's a good boy. Yeah.
Shane is very funny. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. He has this one bit I always love where it's like, because this appeals to I think a lot of different people. Where it's like, let's talk about football and like how like football just cures everything. It's like, yeah, football cured racism.
Yes.
Like in Virginia, they had segregated schools for 100 years, and black people and white people hate each other. And then all of a sudden they integrate the team, and it's like, oh my God, the varsity team is 4-0. Those are my brothers. It's like, are you there?
Yeah. No, I love that one. The version of that I heard where he was talking about, okay, in the South they did a bunch of terrible things, slavery, then that's a great one. I think my favorite one though is the Special Olympics one. Have you heard that one? It's pretty good. It's again, like he's so good at like dancing around a taboo subject without like making fun of it. So it's like, good. Like that's very artful, right? But so it was like the Special Olympics, we can all agree that that's a great program. And I'm not making fun of the Olympians, but you got to admit, the guy who came up with the idea was a risk taker. Like, you imagine like a bunch of guys in a boardroom saying, "Hey, I got an idea. How about we race them?" The guys in the next town, they said that theirs are faster. I said we put this to the test. Or if your friend told you the idea for the Special Olympics, you'd be like, "Dude, don't ever tell this to anybody, man.
What the fuck is wrong with you?"
But it's a great example, I think, of stand-up comedy at its best, where it's like, I'm gonna go right up to the line. I'm not making fun of the thing. I'm making fun of the idea of the thing. So, because it's like it's like he was pointing at people in wheelchairs and laughing at him. Like, no, I'm making fun of the idea.
No, of course not. Yeah, that is funny. It's like the guy thought of it. I mean, he could have gotten ostracized real quick. What the hell's the matter with you?
I said we race them. I said we settle this. See who's our faster.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, Shane Gillis is good. And I like how he's still seems like a very down to earth guy. Like he went on who's that other comedian? He's the Flagrant podcast. What's his name?
Flagrant?
Yeah, the Flagrant podcast. He's got like this sort of like East Coast dude. I can't remember his name. He's pretty famous, but I know he kind of blew up with like TikTok comedy videos during the pandemic.
Is it a Santino?
Not Santino, but getting close. Somewhere like he's definitely like part of Joe Rogan's.
Yeah, that's what I'm naming. Giannis Pappas? No. Anyway, I feel like I'm missing someone.
Not Santino, but someone along those lines.
Well, anyway, what about him?
I think he's a good comedian, but I think he's become very full of himself. I'm looking up
now. I want to know.
He's
Young
got like
guy?
a sort of youngish, probably like mid-30s.
Wait, is he like kind of like dweeby? Like one of his shticks is like he's kind of like a skinny, nerdy guy, but he's really good at jujitsu. Actually,
not really. No.
Joe List, not Joe List.
No, not Joe
List.
List.
I hope not. He does not come off that way at all. So I hope not.
Fuck, I'm on the YouTube thing. It's just not saying his name. Savannah, they gotta have an about. What's his name?
Not the Southern guy.
No, not Southern.
Oh my God, dude.
Flagrant
podcast.
Andrew Schultz.
Oh, Andrew Schultz. Yes. Damn, I knew I was gonna. Okay. Yes, that's exactly. Oh, he's kind of full of himself.
He's a funny guy. I think he's a very talented comedian, but I think like his podcast I don't know. I don't like his format because he's kind of like the ringleader, and he's got 3 other guys, and they're all just kind of like his butt buddies. They all just kind of laugh at what he says. But he's gone kind of Hollywood. He dresses, like very nice and everything, and he's kind of snobby now. But Shane Gillis was on the show, and then Schultz asked me, he goes, "Hey, so what's like now that you're more well known and famous and everything? What's like your like the thing where you're just like, yeah, I'm not doing the blue collar, I'm not doing like the middle class thing. I'm doing like I'm spending extra." And then Shane Gillis like, "I don't know, dude." He goes, "Well, are there clothes? Like, are there fancy clothes that you like to buy, or like certain types of food you like to eat?" And he goes, "I don't know. I just drink Bud Light. I wear the exact same pants.
Yeah.
I wear the same sneakers all the time."
Yeah.
Okay, what's one thing? He goes, I fly first class once in a while when I can. But it was just sort of like he's still just kind of like this blue collar dude. Like, I drink regular beer
he's not fake. Like, he doesn't seem fake at all.
But he's so good at putting people in their place. Like he kind of very calmly shuts people down when they start getting kind of full of themselves. But he's a good guy. I like him.
Yeah, well, he's hosting SNL, I think, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
21st, maybe, or whatever that Saturday is.
Man, I can't. We should comment on. I'm sure it's gonna be a killer opening monologue.
I want to watch. Like, it's smart. I bet you this is gonna be the biggest ratings they've had in a while.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Like, did you see Norm Macdonald's return after he got canned? Like,
and he like, I was jaw dropping.
Yeah, he ripped into them. And he was talking about how, like, the show wasn't the same after him. And he goes, and I thought, well, did I just stop being funny? No, the show just got really, really bad. He was great.
Norm was unmatched.
Oh yeah. So Shane Gillis, he better rip into them, and like,
I hope so. I think he might be too nice.
Maybe.
I think he might be too nice. I don't know.
But the heat's on. That's the thing. Like if he does like just like an average thing, it's kind of like, come on.
I hope he rips into like the usual viewers, like the people who sit there and clap at the dumb Trump stuff and like the typical. I hope he rips into them. I hope he rips into like the people who were vocal about canceling him.
Yeah.
And that would be like, I don't know, was Bowen Yang big in that? 'Cause he was like the only Asian cast member at the time. I don't know. I can't even name the people on that show anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah, good for Shane Gillis. Well, speaking of
cancellation,
people who got canceled.
Yeah, we'll touch on this. Gina Carano.
Yeah.
This came when this came back up, I was like, oh crap! Like, that's right, that did happen. I need kind of a refresher.
Yeah. So Gina Carano was on the show The Mandalorian, which is a Star Wars show, and it's on Disney Plus. And she got canned for posting a lot of. She's pretty right wing. She's been posting a lot of like stuff that's critical of like trans activism and stuff like that, and COVID vax stuff.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I guess if that's right wing, like it is and it isn't. It's kind of just like standard stuff. But yes, for the internet, for Twitter, and for Disney, yeah, I guess it's very right wing.
Yeah. So she got canned for that. So now she's suing them for, I guess, like wrongful termination or something. And Elon Musk is footing the bill, it seems like.
Yeah, so that's cool. And that, like, I realized if I had Elon Musk's money, or not even Elon Musk money, because no one does, but like a lot of money, like money that I could fund, like I would do two things. I would give money to projects that I liked, like to help, like whether it's small businesses or artists. Like I would definitely be like a literal patron. Like I love that idea. I have like this romantic idea of like in the Middle Ages and in the Renaissance, like paying to have work create, and not just like the Medicis, like created cities and like that kind of. I don't mean like in my own private collection. I mean for public good, and also like, I would fund lawsuits left and right for causes that I cared about. So I like that. I don't know enough. I know that she made like a dumb but like pretty standard Nazi comparison about like the Holocaust. Like just it's like, yeah, like we've said it on the show 1,000 times. We had the Nazi jar. Like Gina Carano would probably be in the Nazi jar, to be honest. Like, yeah, it's dumb to compare things to the Holocaust. Like very, very, very few things are the same as being a Jew during the Holocaust, or any of the many other types of people who were imprisoned during the Holocaust and killed and tortured. So that being said, it was like but other people at Disney were having wild takes, saying crazy shit, and did not get fired. It was very much like she was fired for her speech, like political speech.
Yeah.
Not threatening anyone, not harassing anyone, but it's like a dumb meme.
Yeah. So I have her statement about the matter on Twitter here. I'll read a little bit. It's kind of long, but I'll also read a couple sections here. But look at your own eyes at what I posted and ask yourself, for example, where did I compare Republicans to the Jewish people in the Holocaust? I didn't. Ask yourself why they were calling me a racist. Was there any merit behind that or history of it whatsoever? No. Look at why I was called a transphobe for making droid noises from Star Wars. Beep. Oh, that's right, because she had like the pronouns in her bio, but it was beep, bop, boop.
Right.
Was obviously directed to the online bullies and did not in any way denigrate transgender people. It's like, yeah, she's just saying some dumb things, but it's like,
yeah, it was like the standard like milk toasty what's the word?
heterodoxy type shit.
Yeah, like that was very when did this happen? Was this 2020? When were these tweets?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
She brings up a good point here. Hollywood says they support female representation and equal rights. Why then were my male co-stars permitted to speak without harassment and re-education courses or termination, but I was not afforded the same right to exercise my freedom of speech? I mean, first off, just the fact that where it's like, yeah, you get your job back if you have to, but you got to take the sensitivity course. Like,
yeah, well, all of that crap's nuts. I'm for just fighting back in general. Now, I don't know the merits of her case.
Yeah.
You know, she was on some contract. You know, obviously, I mean, I guess it is. She would have been unionized, right? Like,
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm sure the union didn't help her. I don't know. I shouldn't make that assumption. I don't know, but you know what? Good. Like I'd like to see this be a positive outcome for her. I hope she gets a payout. Because this was that time. Did you find when those tweets were from? Did you see it?
No.
Okay. So like so I'm just gonna assume that they were 2020. I would just like that time to me was so disorienting. And I've honestly felt like I was going crazy at sometimes because everything was going in one direction. It was like scary to like, is something going to resurface? Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to get pilloried? Am I going to get dogpiled? Like, and I want there to be a reckoning to that quote unquote racial. I want there to be a reckoning to that. It's like, no, you don't get to just ruin people's lives for tweets.
Yeah.
For putting something in your bio. Again, she wasn't threatening anyone. She didn't sexually assault anyone. She didn't harass. Like, it was just making some memes, and you don't get your like. And I'm sorry, I don't buy the argument. I never did. It's like, oh well, they're rich. They'll get a new job. They'll get like they're fine. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you don't just get to decide that.
Right.
Like that's not like this is also to protect the people who aren't rich. We don't just get like the person who's holding the boom mic who makes that meme, or the person who's the key grip who makes that put thing in their bio. Like, it's to protect everyone. So I don't give it. It was the same thing with the argument of like, oh well, Target, they've got insurance. It's like, so what? It's okay, but the small business, they're probably gonna get screwed. Their premiums are going to go up. Like, and also it's their livelihood. Maybe this business, and it's a lot of people. Even, I mean, I'm not going to defend some corporation here who like Target, but it's like, I don't know. Maybe some people liked going to work and seeing their friends and have to clean up all your crap and deal with what you destroyed. Right. And who knows how Target protected them or didn't protect them when they couldn't work because you looted the place. Like, it doesn't matter. You can't just say like, oh well, because the effects aren't that bad compared to something else. Like, it just gets to happen. This is like the recipe to flush a society down the toilet. Yeah,
you're right. Like, there are a lot of unseen effects to someone losing their job overnight for something like this.
Sure.
And it's funny, like when the wokies go on and on about mental health. It's like, losing your job for a dumb comment is a surefire way to fuck up your mental health.
It's not even, and it's not like losing your job is a lot of times the people don't actually lose their job, but they're dragged through their mud. They're sent to HR for training. They're scolded. They're ostracized. They're made to feel uncomfortable to the point where it's like, should I even work here? It's more like constructive them losing their job. Like, none of that should happen.
Right.
But like, I'm not saying everyone has to hold hands and sing something. But it's like, no, they are they're completely, like I said, ostracized. And it's effectively having people quit their jobs because you've exposed that, you've quote unquote exposed them, you've dragged them through the mud. Even if legally you can't fire them without facing repercussions, you basically do, you make their life living hell. You make a hostile environment.
Yeah, and it's like for example, like during the Me Too movement, when or I guess a little more like towards the aftermath of the Me Too movement, where there were a lot of like false allegations. It's like, and even if that guy didn't lose his job, it's like cool. When you Google his name, you'll see all these headlines saying so and so accused of rape. It's like,
dude, I listen to such a good. Do you listen to Blocked and Reported?
Sometimes with Katie Herzog and
yeah. I was just, because as much as and don't get me wrong, and this story will bolster this, is that as much as I hate journalists, I love good journalists, even if they're few and far between. I was singing Barry Weiss's praises. I think last episode, Jesse and Katie. This actually episode didn't have Jesse at all. I think he's on vacation or I think he's writing a book or something. So anyway, this was Katie and is it Andy Mills? Are you familiar with Andy Mills?
It doesn't sound familiar enough.
He was like, I'm not going to go through the whole episode. You should listen to it, though. It's their most recent one, where this is a guy who, he's a really interesting story. He's from middle America, Christian college, moved to the big city, got in media, was very liberal, but, kind of lost his religion, was very liberal, started at Radio Lab and worked his way up, eventually worked for the New York Times, right? Yeah. And he made some bad decisions. Like he poured a drink on someone during an argument in a bar, like in 2013. And he felt horrible about it. He was drunk. He doesn't even remember it. Like dumb shit like that, right? He like rubbed a girl's shoulders because he thought he was comforting her. And like, it was nothing sexual at all, but he like rubbed her, and like all that resurfaced later. And he was also being called like a rapist and a sexual predator to the point that he had to leave the New York Times. And he was like an award-winning podcaster. And so it's like when you're saying, well, allegations, like, yeah, none of it was true. Yeah. But it's because he made a couple bad decisions a decade earlier, or 7, 8, 9 years earlier. Yeah. Later, it's like because there's that kernel of he wasn't perfect. Yeah. That then he's a sexual predator. And if the New York Times doesn't fire him, then we're going to stop, having New York Times advertise all that shit because some like random people on Twitter just made up allegations. And it's like
Garrison Keillor.
No.
It was a very similar story, but
it was a very similar story because it happened all the time. Yeah. During this like French Revolution style accusations of just like you're not one of us. Yeah. You did something bad this many years ago. You tweeted to like I got in arguments with people would be like the whole, and like how the goalposts change. It's like you used to be able to quote a rap song and say the N-word, and it was like, oh yeah, but you're not calling anyone it. He's saying it like that's. I've brought up many times on the show the Yo Monty guy at the bar mitzvahs, and my friend not wanting to say what NWA stand for, and Yo Monty going, well, don't worry about it. Like it's a proper noun. You can say it. Imagine if that was now. We were 13. Kids have cell phones now. That was I had a cell phone then, but I don't think I had video. Like that was recorded, and then you're going to try and get into college. Yeah. 5 years, 6, 7 years later, 5, 6 years later, and someone sends that to Duke University. Yeah, sends that to UT Austin, like you saying the N-word because you're answering a question about what does NWA stand for.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
like
yeah. So it's funny because like that story, the one you just told is very similar to Garrison Keillor. Do you know that story, the Garrison Keillor?
It sounds familiar. But a lot of this stuff sounds familiar.
Well, I mean, it mirrors that story almost perfectly. So he was, I think he was like a producer of like Prairie Home Companion, and then he was like a producer for or something. He did something for NPR, and then same thing, like a handful of troubling incidents where it's like, okay, you go to HR, maybe you have to take a class or whatever. But like it was, but there was one case where he hugged a coworker, a female coworker who was, and they were friends, but she was having a bad day, and he went to comfort her and hug her, and I guess she was wearing a tank top, I guess, so his hand touched part of her bare back. He felt bad. He apologized in the moment, and he even emailed her the next day saying, "Hey, I'm really sorry. Just want you to know that was not me trying to hit on you." And she forgave him. And then, like months later, she accused him of sexual assault. So it's just like,
yeah, dude, that happened. That happened in the Andy Mills thing too, where it was like he realized that some of his actions weren't taken the way he thought they were. He said he had like a reflective moment. It's like, holy crap, I'm not being like, I think I'm acting one way,
Yeah.
and I'm not. So like, I apologize. Everyone was cool with it. The girl whose shoulders, whose drink I poured the drink on her, was cool with it.
Yeah.
You know, we were friends. And then it comes up years later because we are social animals.
Yeah.
People like to feel a part of a tribe. They like the power, and he had been successful. Honestly, if he was a nobody, it wouldn't matter. But he had won a war. He did this award-winning podcast about ISIS called The Caliphate. That was really popular. And then there was some like controversy with that, and it was like, oh, of course, you know. And then race came into it. He's white, and then gender came into it. He's a man, and like all these things where it's like, oh, and then like some other reporter got not fired, but you know, reassigned to a less prestigious post at the New York Times. It's like, oh well, because she's a woman of color, you punish her, but not him. And then it was like, oh, and also he's a sexual predator. It was like it wasn't enough. They had to keep, and you had to go all the way to that. And what's crazy to me is he was like, and I had all these people sign this letter against me. 2 of them were his roommates.
Oh shit.
I mean, my jaw dropped when I heard that. It was like, what? And he was like, yeah, that was not a good day back at the apartment.
Yeah.
And but their thinking was, well, what do I have? And this is obviously very self-centered, of course, New York City, you know, probably living in Brooklyn. I think they were living in Brooklyn. I think it's like, yeah, but if I don't sign this, it can hurt my career. And you're all like, it doesn't do anything. Like, I'm a nobody. Like, it doesn't do anything to you. So why wouldn't I? And to me, that's like, oh my God, this is why I say journalists are the worst people around.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose? You have to lose a friend.
Yeah.
Like, you have to lose someone that you care about, you share a living space with. Like, that is so, I don't know. I just found that like sick.
Yeah.
And anyway, you should definitely listen to the episode. Like, Blackstone Report is great. I don't know what you would call them. They like to call, like, they're about internet bullshit, which is kind of cool. Like, they just do deep dives on internet cultures and struggles and controversies, and obviously journal. They do have a bent sometimes, and I think they've toned it back a little. They've done a lot of transgender stuff, which to me, a lot of it gets like a little much. I think they've realized that, but that's kind of what their specialties were. They're both, I would say, heterodox. I don't think you wouldn't say either of them are Republicans or even Trump's. Like, Jesse's does not like very against Trump, but definitely like they catch way more flack from the left.
As far as I know, both of them pretty left leaning, but like sort of more like old school liberals from like 15 years ago rather than like you know, modern progressives. But,
I mean, Katie had like flyers up to like Wanted in Seattle because she wrote for a progressive alt journal called The Stranger, and she had like some critical trans stuff, and they like wanted, like, she had to like flee the city. Or something. Like,
and you know, Jesse Singleton has definitely done a lot, you know, just like talking with detransitioners, but of course that led to a lot of flack from the radical trans activists.
And now the New York Times is printing stuff about detransition. So it's like,
I saw that.
Like, yes, it's like at one time it's like taboo, and you're a Nazi, and you're a right wing, and you're a Putin apologist, and whatever it is. And now it's like, oh well, the New York Times is doing it. Like 3 years later, it's like, but that's why I always say, it's like Anna Kasparian now coming out. Like, do you know who that is? The Young Turks.
The Young Turks. Yeah, and she's, you know, don't call me a uterus haver. I'm a woman.
Well, that was like a year ago, but most recently, like this week, she said something that was like, I forget, something about the left being crazy and racial and all that. I'm like, well, about 4 years too late, but welcome to the club. Like exactly, okay, but it's like now it's okay. Like now you have the Young Turks coming out and saying this stuff, and I don't know. It's like, well, where were you in 2020?
Exactly.
Like where were you? Where was the New York Times? You know, when all this crazy, like, you knew it was going on. Nothing's really changed, except now it's like we've been on the right side, and our views are like a lot more open. Like it's just out there more, because the other side has had to tone it down a lot, or because they're nuts. Yeah,
it's crazy, man. Like you remember from a few months back, probably about 6 months ago, I think it was. Somebody wrote an article. Maybe I think it was in the Atlantic, but it was sort of like it was talking about like the state of the U.S. like post pandemic, of like, look, we were all kind of crazy. Let's just kind of bury the hatchet. And it's like, fuck you. Like people lost their jobs.
Because, I say, I think I responded. I go, no amnesty ever. I was like, was that the one we need to give amnesty?
That's what it was.
Yeah. That was like 6 months ago or more. I said absolutely not.
Yeah,
like, you wanted us, not us. Like I got vaccinated. some my choice, some not so much. Like you wanted people who weren't vaccinated, people I know, people I love, to be like herded into camps and forced to be vaccinated, removed from civil society, removed from public transportation and restaurants. Like you wouldn't have batted an eye.
Yeah.
You would have been the good Germans. You would have been fine with it.
Exactly.
And now it's like, oh, well, you know what? It was a crazy time. It's like, no amnesty ever. If I ever encounter something like I will never forgive them because it was so obvious. This was like such brain rot. Like I would never forgive someone who thought like people who wouldn't get vaccinated are like should have lost their jobs, should have been removed. Like absolutely not. I have such a red line there.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm with you, man. And it's like it's also just like the internet. It's like it's forever. It's so like we don't need to keep receipts. They're right fucking there. We can just dig them up easily. So like don't think that if you were out there pushing a narrative, but like don't say that COVID came from a lab. Don't ever question the
That's another one. Yeah, that's another one that was like totally fringe. I mean, that's the best example I think of like something that went from being you are spreading disinformation, you are a right-wing nut, you are anti-democratic, whatever it is, somehow you're a white supremacist because you're saying, and now it's like it's basically proven, and more so that a lot of the COVID shit was a lot of it was bullshit. Fauci said, oh yeah, the 6 foot thing that was just made up. Like I just thought of it. And that it came from a lab and that we funded it. It's like, it's actually the opposite of racist. I'm criticizing a lot more the Western countries that funded this place. That was so bad that we moved it from, I believe, Texas or North Carolina to China because they have less regulations. Yeah. Obama correctly shut this down and we moved over there, and people like Fauci and other countries and the WHO, and they would fund it. So that you're saying that's more racist than criticizing like the cultural wet markets.
Right, exactly. That seems worse.
It's way worse. It's way worse. It made no sense. And this is why I said earlier in this episode, I was saying crazy pills. Like, what are you talking about? How is that worse? Yeah. Like you're criticizing a cultural thing, which I do think is gross. Yeah. But like that's much, if anything is going to be racist, it's that. Yeah. Not this globo homo lab in China that's funded by a bunch of Western countries because the experimenting is so dangerous.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Did you see, I think this is from last year, Trevor Noah basically telling the audience like, us in the media, we lie, but there was a good reason for us lying, basically. So he's like, so for example, during COVID, when the idea that it came from a lab, yes, it may very well have come from a lab, but the reason why we had to shut that down was because it was leading to anti-Asian hate. It's like, you're just saying to our face that you lied, and you're being like, I know we lied, but it was for a good reason.
Yeah. Trevor Noah can get fucked. And,
I hate that guy.
And it's called the noble lie. And that's what Fauci argued with, which has gone back and forth on, of masking. It was first, if you remember, masking at first was considered bad. Like, don't mask. Yeah. And why did they tell us that? Because we needed the masks for the first responders.
Yes.
Because they didn't trust us. They didn't trust the people. They thought we'd hoard masks. I'm sure some people would. But but what about people dying who could have been prevented from a mask? And then it was, you have to mask all the time, actually. You have to mask, you have to double mask. And actually, you should not do Thanksgiving or Christmas and double mask and sit in your apartment on your laptop and scroll Twitter all day. That's what you should do in a mask. And and then it was like, well, masking doesn't really work. And then masking became more of a like a symbol. Like it's a shibboleth. It became a shibboleth, basically. I'm one of the good ones, or you're a fucking moron, like whatever it is. And what sucks, and I've always said this, I think it sucks that masking got political. I think masking can be good. I always liked it. And in other cultures, like in Japan, people mask because they don't feel good and they don't want to get you sick. Yeah. And they have to still drive their taxi or whatever. The air quality is not great. I always said I was the only person on my campus in college in 2009 when there's a swine flu going around. Literally the only person who wore a mask. And not that I wore it a lot, but I was the only mask I saw. And because it wasn't political. It wasn't anything. Right. So I don't know. I think that, so to kind of bring this full circle, was the time was so nuts. Yeah. And I don't forgive these people. These are people who have huge influence and reach, and the information was there. And not only was it like, it'd be one thing if it's just like, oh, we were wrong about this. That's okay. Like, people are wrong about shit all the time. Own up to it. It was, we're wrong and we're demonizing the people who are actually right. Yeah. Or it's not about right and wrong. It's just we're just demonizing them.
Yeah.
And that I will not forgive.
Absolutely, man.
We'll cut
That was a supportive burp.
Okay. All right.
Well, real quick, just getting back to the Gina Carano thing, I just want to
yeah.
explain why Elon Musk is footing the bill for that. A couple months ago, Elon Musk tweeted that if you had been fired from using the platform for exercising your right to free speech, he would like to offer these people legal representation. Quite the noble offer, but never in my wildest dreams would I have thought anyone would take on my case against Lucasfilm/Disney. Still, I did respond back. I think I qualify, and thousands of people agreed, but I did not expect anything. To my surprise, a few months ago, I received an email from a lawyer who had been hired by X to look into my story and many others. Turns out, after sending them as much information as I could gather these past few months, my lawyers and X believe wholeheartedly in my case and are moving forward. So yeah, good on Elon. He's
yeah,
good.
That's sweet. Like I don't think Elon Musk is like the white knight. I think he has his own issues.
Sure.
That being said, we need that counterweight to the corporate. The government and the corporate kind of power that there is in this country. Yeah. And if that has to be because we are just so like anti-populist, obviously I'd rather have populist uprisings and populist politician, but like that's not really going to happen. Maybe one day, but that's not really going to happen. Yeah. Even if some politicians paint themselves that way, then it's nice to have someone who's going to fight back at least on some of the things that you believe in. Yes. And yeah, I can't stand a lot of the politics that Disney puts out there. Like we had that successful boycott of Budweiser. Not that I really drank it anyway. I drink Miller Lite, but you know, that I think there needs to be more of that, more people speaking out, more of like action. I think that's one thing. I think the left overplayed their hand way too much, and it got the right to mobilize, and that's not always good. I'm not saying that's always a good thing. I don't believe that, but sometimes it is. I think this is one of them. I don't even know if Musk would be considered right wing. But he's definitely anti this super progressive corporate, and it's also just like such BS too. Like it's not legitimate, but it does affect real people. Like this let's call it like the DEI industrial complex, right? The crit complex. If he's going to be a fighter, if the pugilist for our side, because I would say I definitely am on that side. If the pugilist for this happens to be the richest man in the world, I'm all for it. Me too, man. I'm all for it. Whether I agree with him on a lot of other stuff, I might not. I do on some. I think he might be I don't know. He's the richest guy in the world. He made a lot of great things. He also can be a little unhinged sometimes. But whatever. I'm all for him funding lawsuits against these corporations.
Yeah, so Elon, give us money, dude, and we'll keep talking about you. So.
Yes, we will. Oh yeah, if Elon wants to join our Patreon, he could be a top tier member.
Elon, I think that's the perfect option for you, Elon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I think
Elon, you know what's funny? I had my first tweet. And then we'll really wrap up. I had my first tweet flagged in a long time, and I'm like on Elon's Twitter. It was so I watched Dix the musical. This was the other movie that Nathan Lane was in, and while it was funny at first, like it became really kind of gross. And again, like okay, like basically, let me put it this way: it ends with a literally incestual marriage between two gay brothers. And it's like, yeah, that's a lot. They like 69 each other and spit in each other's mouths. And it's like, no, like that's like, this would be the kind of movie that they would show at like a conservative summer camp to be like their, like this is what you have to look out for. But what I tweeted was at the end, the final song is called, I don't know what it's called, but like the chorus is like, God is a faggot. That's the final chorus. And I tweeted, I bet you though. And of course they bring in like the people to protest and it's comedy, but it's like people to protest the wedding, of course, are like a nun and a priest and like a guy in a cowboy hat. Okay. How about you show me the Muslims? Show me the Muslims who would be like, no, you guys aren't that edgy. Like, that's the thing. If you really want to be edgy, be like Charlie Hebdo, who's like very, very left wing, but rips on everyone, or even South Park. They're not left wing, but they rip on everyone. It's like, no, of course you bring in like the redneck and the cowboy hat who's like against the gay. Okay, but this is a marriage that you should be against because they're twins. Like it doesn't matter that they're gay. Like they should be protesting this marriage whether they were straight and they're twins. Like that's disgusting. So it's like you're kind of not making the point I think you're trying to make, but also it's like God in the movie is gay Asian.
Gaysian.
a Gaysian, and the final song is God is a Faggot. And I tweeted, I bet you though this upsets more left-wing people than right-wing people because of the word faggot. Like, even though the whole term is like, I'm sure people object to God as a faggot. It's like, yeah, but I just, the way culture is now, I see more left-wing people getting upset about the faggot word instead of the concept that God is a faggot. So, and that got flagged. But then I tweeted at Elon, actually. I was like, yo, what? Like, I'm quoting something here.
Yeah.
Like, and then immediately, though, and I did my little appeal, and like, within, I don't even know, maybe 20 minutes, I was like, oh, we were wrong. Sorry. And they reinstated the tweet. Like, that would not happen in old Twitter.
I know. Vijaya Gade or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I'm glad you got Elon's attention. So hopefully you butter him up and be sure to plug Patreon. And, so, yeah. All right, everybody.
All right.
The
crits.
Stay reckless.
Patreon. Stay reckless. Join Patreon while you find the crits and stay reckless.
Yeah.